Hello everyone, very good afternoon to all of you. So before we start the new chapter of single unit or unit costing, let's first try to understand the concept of cost allocation and cost apportionment. Okay, there are two terminologies. One is cost allocation, another one is cost apportionment. The two are different. Okay, the two are completely different. So let's have a quick discussion regarding the two terms. First is cost allocation. Now, this is used to determine the cost of a specific department or activity, while cost apportionment is used to distribute the cost of a shared resource. So, in cost apportionment, there is a concept of shared resource. Okay, there is a concept of shared resource, whereas in the cost allocation, we already know that this cost is particular to a product or a department. Okay, so let me just give you a quick example. Let's suppose I have bought raw material worth rupees 50,000. I know that 30,000 will be consumed for producing product A and 20,000 will be consumed for producing the product B. This is allocation. This is allocation. So I have allocated the cost to the respective products, right? I just have allocated the cost to the respective products, right? This is nothing but cost allocation. Then, sir, what is apportion? Apportion we always do for a shared resource. For a shared resource. Let's suppose in a factory, I am producing two products A and B. However, when I get the electricity bill, light bill of the factory, say for example 1 lakh rupees, then it is a shared resource, right? Electricity is a shared resource. I need to apportion. I need to apportion on the basis of how much electricity is being consumed for producing A and how much electricity is being used for producing the product B. So this is nothing but apportionment. Okay, this is nothing but apportionment. Why? Because that's a shared resource. Electricity is a shared resource. So let's suppose machinery A or the product A, I estimated that 60% of the electricity is being consumed by product A and 40% is being consumed by product B. So then I can apportion it. Now, how I have assumed 60% and 40%? So that depends on the cost of lighting, heating, power, based on the floor space occupied. It can be due to the floor space occupied. Let's suppose product A is occupying 60% of my floor space, or it can be due to light points as well. Let's suppose the light points in which product A is being produced are 60% of the total light points. So there should be a reasonable basis. There should be a reasonable basis for the apportionment. Allocation, it's straight. Apportionment is because of a shared resource, right? It's because of a shared resource. So I need a perfect basis. I need a particular parameter on which I can apportion the expenditure, right? That's the concept of apportionment. So you just need to have a basic understanding of the meaning of what allocation is and what apportion is. Okay, now let's start with a new chapter, single output or unit costing. So they both are same only. Okay, they both are synonyms only, single output or unit costing. Now, what do you mean by unit costing? It is nothing but a method of costing. So we have now started the chapter of method of costing. In method of costing, we'll be learning different methods like unit costing, like job costing, batch costing, and so on, right? Okay, so let's start with unit costing. Unit costing is nothing but a method of costing where the output produced is identical and each unit of output requires an identical cost. Let's suppose I am a pen manufacturer. I manufacture this pen. I manufacture this pen. Okay, so I'm manufacturing 1000 pens. Is the output identical? Yes, all the pens are similar only. They are of similar types only. Do they require identical cost? Yes. Each pen is worth rupees 10. So they do have a identical cost, plus they are identical in itself as well. Right? So here we are good to use the unit costing. Okay. Now what do we do in the unit costing? Basically we try to ascertain the per unit cost. Okay. Unit costing is synonymously known as single costing or output costing. You need to remember this synonym as well. Here, what do we do is we try to categorize the cost element wise. Now, yesterday we discussed classification based on the element wise. Can anyone tell me how, on the basis of elements, we divide the cost? What do you mean by elements? Elements of costing, what do you mean by that? Any idea about that, guys? Elements of costing. Fixed and variable, that's on the basis of variability or on the basis of behavior, not element. That's on the basis of behavior or variability. Material, labor, direct expense, and so on. Okay, that's element. What can be an element of cost? It can be material, direct labor, and other expenses. Now, how to calculate the cost per unit? If I know my total production cost, let's suppose my total production cost is 1 lakh divided by I have produced 1000 units. So definitely it's straight that my per unit cost is 100. Okay, this is per unit cost. So that's what we need to do in the unit costing. There is a particular statement. There is a particular statement that you need to understand and remember very well. On the basis of that statement, you need to solve different questions. Okay. What are the materials in the cost of production? Okay, so let's suppose if I am manufacturing this t-shirt, so what will be the material in this case? Can anyone tell me what will be the material in this case? What material I need in order to make this t-shirt? Cloth, right? Cloth, I need cloth, color, okay, water, okay, thread, printer if I am printing something, okay. So I can say the basic raw material that I need is first of all cloth, right? So that's a direct material. That's a direct material. Then if I talk about who will create this, so I can use machines. Who will operate the machines? Labor will operate the machine. So direct labor, another component, right? So I need direct material. I need labor. I need to do other expenses as well, indirect expenses as well, like electricity expense, right? In order to operate that machine, I need to incur some indirect expenses as well, that we can call it as overheads, right? क्या बोलते हैं indirect expenses को? We call them overheads. देखो प्रिंटर लेबर में नहीं आएगा, ठीक है? प्रिंटर इज नॉट लेबर. ओके, प्रिंटर इज नॉट लेबर. फर्स्ट थिंग, प्रिंटर को जो ऑपरेट करेगी वो लेबर होगी ना. प्रिंटर कैसे लेबर हो सकता है? प्रिंटर इज अ फिक्स्ड असेट. फर्स्ट थिंग, ओके. ऐसा थोड़ी हो रहा है कि एक प्रिंटर एक टी शर्ट बना रहा है. इट्स नॉट लाइक दैट. प्रिंटर में जो इंक डल रही है वो मेरा मटेरियल हो जाएगा, राइट? वो मेरा मटेरियल हो जाएगा बिकॉज इट्स डायरेक्टली इन्वॉल्व इन मेकिंग दिस टी शर्ट. प्रिंटर को जो चला रहा है, दैट लेबर विल बी माई डायरेक्ट लेबर, राइट? So it works like that. This method of costing therefore find its application like industries like paper industry, cement industry, steel industry. Say for example, these cement bags. Are they identical? Yes. Are their cost identical? Yes. So definitely, because these are identical products, all the cement bags are same only. Do they have a identical cost? Yes. The per bag cost is close to same only. So here we can apply the unit costing. So the criteria for the application of unit costing is identical products and identical cost. If these two conditions are satisfied, you are good to follow the unit costing. Okay. Let's have a look at the terminologies as well before going ahead. Cost unit. What do you mean by cost unit? Let's suppose if I talk about bricks. Okay. I manufacture this brick. So what will be my cost unit? It will be per brick. It will be per brick. Right? So the product or service for which the cost is calculated. Here I am calculating the cost for the bricks. So the cost unit will be per brick. If I am supplying milk, right? If I am in the business of dairy, then in that case, my cost unit will be per liter in case of milk. Right? In case of milk, it will be per liter. That's cost unit. Next is cost center. So I do have many departments in my organization like production department, they are doing the production work, marketing department, sales department, IT department, which will be the cost center. If I am a t-shirt manufacturer, what will be a cost center? My cost center will be production department, right? Where the actual cost gets accumulated. Where the actual cost gets accumulated. So say for example, production department, they are doing the entire production of the t-shirts. Definitely they might be incurring all the cost as well, right? Cost unit and unit cost are the same? No, they are not the same. They are not the same. समझना फर्क. कॉस्ट यूनिट, जो कॉस्ट आपने निकाली है उसकी यूनिट क्या है, उसकी मेजरेबल यूनिट क्या है. ब्रिक्स 5 रुपए पर ब्रिक, 5 रुपी पर ब्रिक. This per brick is cost unit. How can I measure the brick? On the basis of per brick, on the basis of per liter for milk. That's the cost unit. जो आपने cost निकाली है उसकी unit क्या है? 5 रुपी पर brick. Per brick is your cost unit. सर unit cost क्या है? 5 रुपी. एक यूनिट बनाने की cost क्या है? 5 रुपी. That's the difference. When I ask cost unit, it is nothing but I am asking about the measurement, how you are measuring it. So you are measuring it on the basis of per brick, per liter, per kilogram, right, per gram. However, when I talk about unit cost, that means for producing one unit, how much will be the cost? That's the difference. Okay, clear? In the costing, it's all about terminologies. Okay, we are having so many confusing terminologies as well. So you'll be learning them one by one. Okay, don't worry at all. Next is cost sheet. This is nothing but a statement. I need to create a statement, right? Cost sheet. कितना मटेरियल लगा, कितना लेबर लगा, how much expenses, direct expenses, how much overheads were there. This will be my total cost. This is nothing but my cost sheet. A statement which is showing the total cost and the cost per unit as well. This is nothing but my cost sheet. We also call it as cost statement or statement of cost and profit, one of the same thing only. We prepare it in order to know how much is the cost in totality terms and in per unit terms. So why we are preparing the cost sheet here? It reveals the total cost or the cost per unit. First thing, how can we know the total cost? How can we compute the cost per unit? We'll be making a cost sheet for that. It tells the breakup of the cost into different elements of the cost. We need a consolidated statement in which we can see that material 10,000, labor 20,000, other expense 30,000. So these elements we can figure out from the cost sheet, like in order to produce bricks, how much material is required, how much labor is required, how much other expenses we need to do, right? This is why we prepare the cost sheet. It also helps us in quoting the selling price. If I don't know that my cost per brick is 5 rupee, how can I decide the selling price? Let's suppose my cost per brick is 5 rupee. I added 1 rupee as my profit margin per brick. So in that manner, I can compute my selling price. However, if I don't know my per unit cost, network, is there any network issue, guys? Can you hear me, guys? Am I audible? Am I visible? Please confirm. Everything is fine at my end, I think. Okay, thanks for confirming. Thanks for confirming. Okay. Okay, guys. So if I don't know my per unit cost, then how can I compute my selling price, right? So I need a statement. I need a statement from which I can know my total cost, from which I can compute my per unit cost. So that's the purpose of preparing the cost sheet. That's the purpose of preparing the cost sheet. Now this is the format of cost sheet. Okay, this is the format of cost sheet. We need to learn this very well, because if you want to solve questions from unit costing, if you want to solve questions from unit costing, this will be very important. Without this statement, you can't even proceed. Okay, so this statement is just like that flow of income statement that we studied in ratio analysis. We all know the importance of that statement. You also need to paste this statement near your study table or any other convenient place where you can revise it multiple times. Okay, so that it goes into your permanent memory, because this is very important. If you are, if you want to solve any numerical of unit costing, you need to know this statement very well. So let's first discuss this particular statement. Okay, the first thing we need is material consumed. Now, how to calculate material consumed? What is the opening stock of my raw material? How much purchases I have made in this particular current year? What is the closing stock of my raw material? That's what consumption is all about. That's what consumption is all about. We have already learned this formula in commerce and accountancy, right? Say for example, I'm already having 100 rupee in my opening stock. I purchased 200 rupee worth raw material more. In this particular financial year, I purchased raw material worth rupees 200. So ideally, I should be having 300 worth rupees raw material. 300 worth rupees raw material I should be having. However, at the end of the year, I can see that I'm having only raw material worth rupees 50. So what does this mean? This means that 250 rupee I must have consumed. While manufacturing the t-shirts, I must have consumed the rest of the 250. So opening stock plus purchase minus the closing stock, this will give me the consumption. This will give me the consumption, right? So that's the first thing you guys need to know, how to compute the material consumed. Opening stock plus purchase minus the closing stock. So here is how they have computed raw material consumed, opening stock of raw material purchased in this particular financial year, and the closing stock of raw material. Sir, what do you mean by opening stock? The stock that you are having on 1st April of your financial year, let's suppose 2024. So the stock you are already having on 1st April 2024, that means this is the last year stock. which is not sold yet. So I have just carry forward it to the next financial year, right? ये वो माल है जो बिका नहीं था. So I do have as of now with me some opening stock as on 1st of April 2024. Now what is closing stock? This is the stock which is in my organization on 31st March 2025, last date of the financial year. This is the stock that I haven't used yet. I'll be using it next year. So this year ka closing stock will be the opening stock of the next year. That's the logic, right? So we need these three things in order to calculate the direct material consumed. Once we get the direct material consumed sorted, the first aspect is sorted. Then we need direct labor. How much wages you have paid to your laborers, which are directly working on the product, right? Which are directly working on the product. Let's suppose, for example, we want to make this t-shirt. I know that it's not looking like a t-shirt, but let's assume as of now my drawing is horrible. Okay, I know my handwriting and drawing both are horrible. So let's assume that this is a t-shirt. Now those employees who are directly involved in manufacturing of this t-shirt, I'll be paying them wages, right? I'll be paying them daily wages or maybe monthly wages. They will be my direct labor. Sir, what about your accountant? You have hired an accountant as well. Is he directly involved in the production of my goods or services? No. So this is my indirect cost. This is my overheads. We'll be discussing later on about this particular concept. As of now, I need to take the cost I have paid to the laborers for making this t-shirt. So I have consumed the material, I have accounted for the wages. Now there can be several other direct expenses as well that I have incurred for the creation of this t-shirt, right? So I have three things as of now. Direct material, first thing. Direct labor, second thing. Direct expenses, third thing. So these three things will sum up to become my primary cost. Primary cost. Acha, when I talk about the direct expenses, these are other direct expenses, okay? Because material is also a direct expense. Labor in itself is a direct expense. If you are having any other direct expense apart from labor and material, you can consider in the C point in the question. They will clearly mention it in the question. If I total all these three things, you will call it as prime cost. What you will call it as? Prime cost. Don't just read it, feel it. Why they have stated prime cost? Because this is a primary cost. If you want to make a t-shirt, you need material, you need to incur expenses, you need to incur labor charges. That's why we call it as prime cost, primary cost, right? The name is prime cost. So in order to calculate prime cost, I need direct material, I need direct labor expense, I need other direct material, other direct expenses as well. So these three things will sum up to become my prime cost, right? यहाँ तक clear? Look, electricity and factory rent won't be my direct expenses, okay? They won't be my direct expenses. So the expenses related to factory will be my factory overheads. I'm coming to electricity and factory rent in the factory overheads. What if they are required for production? Yes, I need factory for production. That's fine. That's why we call it as factory cost. Okay. There is a separate terminology here. Factory overheads. Have a look. Factory or work overheads. So because all the operation stuff related to the production I have done in factory, so there is a specific heading that they have created, factory overhead or work overhead. Okay. Then what can be, sir, other expenses? We understood the material part, we understood the labor part. What can be other direct expenses? Look, what if you need to pay a royalty of 10 rupee on your production? What if you need to pay a royalty specifically of 10 rupee? That's based on your production, not on your any other criteria directly linked to the production. That will be a direct expense. That will be a direct expense. Okay. Again, you have used any kind of particular expenditure on the product specific expenditure, or you have paid any kind of subcontracting charges. Freight, yes, freight will also be a direct cost. Okay, if you have incurred that on the particular bringing the raw material, it can also be a direct expense, right? It can be also a direct expense. So freight is nothing but transportation expense only. So there can be n number of examples here. However, the factory specific expenses we will be accounting for in the factory or work overhead. There is a separate heading for that. Okay, factory or work overhead. So I need to mention my factory or work overheads here. It can be anything related to my factory. It can be rent of my factory. It can be any other expense as well. I need to adjust the WIP. Now, what do you mean by WIP? Work in progress. The t-shirt is not complete. I have just inserted the cloth in the machinery. The machinery is still processing it, or the laborers are still working on it, right? The labor is still working on it. They will soon make it. However, till the time it is actually a t-shirt, what do we call that? Work in progress. So why you are accounting for the WIP adjustment only after factory overhead? Because WIPs are always created in factories. If your work is in progress, definitely the WIP material will be in your factory, right? That's why we account for just below the factory overheads or my work overheads. Acha, do remember, factory overheads are also called as work overhead. Factory overheads are also called as work overheads. Here I need to adjust for my opening stock of WIP and my closing stock of WIP. Sorry. I need to add the opening stock of my WIP. I need to deduct the closing stock of my WIP. Sir, why we are adding opening stock? The same concept of raw material. We were adding the opening stock in the raw material purchased and we were subtracting the closing stock. Here also, we need to add the opening stock. We need to deduct the closing stock. The same concept only. Okay. So as of now, what I have done, the first thing I need to do is to calculate primary cost. I need direct material. I need direct labor. I need other direct expenses. This will be my prime cost, primary cost. Then I need to add factory or work overheads in it. Factory or work overheads in it. Then I need to adjust the WIP. By adjusting WIP, what do I mean? Add opening stock of WIP, deduct closing stock of WIP. WIP adjustment needs to be done. I will be arriving at my work cost or factory cost. Guys, please be careful. This is factory overheads or work overheads. This is factory cost or work cost. They both are different. If I talk about factory overheads, rent can be a factory overhead. However, when I talk about the factory cost, it is including my primary cost. It is including my factory overheads. It is including the adjustment of WIP. That is my factory cost or work cost. Okay, that is my factory cost or work cost. So first I need to calculate the primary cost. Then in primary cost I need to add factory overheads and I need to adjust the WIP. I'll be getting factory cost here. मतलब फैक्ट्री के अंदर की कॉस्ट, फैक्ट्री में लगने वाली कॉस्ट, सिंपल टर्म्स में. अभी एक बार स्टेटमेंट समझ लो. ठीक है, काफी सारे क्वेश्चंस आ रहे होंगे माइंड में, धीरे धीरे सब सॉल्व होंगे. ओके, व्हेन वी विल बी मूविंग टू द क्वेश्चंस, वन बाय वन थिंग्स विल सॉर्ट. So once I have the factory cost, which we also call it as work cost, then I need to adjust, then I need to add office and administrative expenses or overheads. Office and administrative expenses or overheads. Sir, example of office and administrative overheads: the salary of my accountant. I'm paying my accountant 10,000 rupees per month. That's an office expense, that's an administrative expense, right? There is office staff as well, administrative staff as well, HR, finance department, accounts department, right? So I need to pay them as well. That will come under the heading office and administrative expenses or overheads. Okay, not expenses. Is there something like gross and net factory cost? No. As of now, no. As per your books, no. However, they can create it. However, they can create it. Okay. They can give you certain terminologies related to that. There is no official terminology like gross or net factory cost. Okay. All these overheads will be accounted in the RPA. What's RPA? What is RPA? अरे guys, why you are linking costing with accounting? खिचड़ी बन जाएगा पूरा. These overheads are expenses, right? They are indirect expenses. Why they will be a representative personal account? Why you guys are linking these terminologies with commerce and accounts? Don't do that, please. Okay, don't do that. If you want to do that, let me finish costing first. Okay, first let's build a good understanding on the subject commerce and accounts, then build a good understanding on the subject costing. Then you are in a position to compare, right? If you start comparing the things right now, you'll get confused, because what I am teaching here is cost statement, cost sheet format, and you are thinking about इसको ट्रेडिशनल अकाउंटिंग के हिसाब से क्लासिफाई करके देखते हैं. नहीं, तो उससे क्या होगा मैं बताता हूं. इट इज अ गुड अप्रोच, बट उसके लिए आपके दोनों सब्जेक्ट सुपर साउंड होने चाहिए. जब आपके दोनों सब्जेक्ट्स का एक एक बार रिवीजन हो गया है, फिर हम लिंकिंग करने का ट्राई करें, सो दैट्स गुड. हाउएवर, before building the basic, before building the blocks, if we try to build the building, our base will be weak. Okay, I can tell you here, मैं यहाँ पे अकाउंट्स भी पढ़ा सकता हूँ साथ में आपको. अब जैसे ओवरहेड्स हो गए, overheads are indirect expenses, so directly they will be going to my nominal account, right? But there is no such terminology of overhead in the commerce and accounting. So till then our basics are over. Don't try to link costing with commerce and accountancy. Why? Because that will create confusion, that will create more and more confusion. Please be in the present moment. That's for everyone. Okay, please be in the present moment. गलती से भी कॉमर्स एंड अकाउंटेंसी में इन सारे कॉन्सेप्ट्स को अभी मत लेके जाओ. जब ले जाना होगा मैं खुद लेके जाऊंगा. ठीक है, जब ले जाना होगा मैं खुद बोलूंगा कि देखो अकाउंट्स में ऐसा होता था, कॉस्टिंग में ऐसा होता है. अभी मत लेके जाओ जब तक बेसिक्स नहीं बन जाए. अभी तो ये शीट ही तुम लोगों को याद नहीं हुई है. ठीक है, तो why you guys are connecting it as of now? Please here in the present moment. Please be here in the present moment. Okay. So if I tell that I am having staff in my office, I do have administrative staff as well, right? office expenses like printing and stationery. These things will be part of my admin expenses or office overheads. Okay, these are indirect expenses. They are not directly participating in the production process, right? So they are my office and administrative expense. So in my factory cost, if I account for the office and administrative overheads, what I'll be getting is the cost of production. Cost of production, COP. I'll be getting cost of production here. Now I need to do the adjustment of finished goods. Adjustment of finished goods. Add opening stock of your finished good less closing stock of your finished goods. Let's suppose 1 lakh rupee is the cost of my production. 1 lakh rupee is the cost of my production. I was already having finished goods worth rupees 20,000 as my opening stock. So can I say that 1,20,000 is the cost of goods which is available for sale? Which is available for sale. 1 lakh rupees is the cost of production of this year. 20,000 rupees finished goods were already there in my stock as opening stock. So can I say that in totality I do have 1,20,000 the cost of goods that are available for sale. I'll deduct the closing stock of my finished goods. So 1,20,000 तो थे, 1,20,000 I was already having, but at the end of the year I can see that only 30,000 is there in my finished goods. So what happened to the rest of the 90,000? That must be sold. Cost of the goods that is sold. COGS. This is COGS, cost of the goods that is sold. अब इसको अकाउंटिंग वाले COGS से मत कंपेयर करो, कंफ्यूज हो जाओगे अभी के लिए, जब तक तुम्हारे कॉन्सेप्ट्स एक लेवल पे ना आ जाए वहां पे मत लेके जाओ। सर आपने वहां तो पढ़ा था ओपनिंग स्टॉक प्लस परचेज प्लस डायरेक्ट एक्सपेंसेस माइनस क्लोजिंग स्टॉक। यहाँ पे तो आप कॉस्ट शीट से, वो अकाउंटिंग है, ये कॉस्टिंग है, ठीक है। अकाउंटिंग में हमको फर्क नहीं पड़ता कि एक्सपेंस डायरेक्ट है या इनडायरेक्ट है, कॉस्टिंग में भी केयर, कॉस्टिंग में हमको फर्क पड़ता है कि एक्सपेंस इज डायरेक्ट और इनडायरेक्ट, बिकॉज इन कॉस्टिंग डायरेक्ट एक्सपेंसेस का अलग रास्ता है, इनडायरेक्ट एक्सपेंसेस को यहाँ ओवरहेड्स बोलते हैं। क्या मैंने अकाउंटिंग के अंदर कभी वर्ड भी यूज किया ओवरहेड? नहीं किया, क्योंकि है ही नहीं, राइट। सो एज ऑफ नाउ डोंट लिंक दिस COGS विद द अकाउंटिंग COGS. नेक्स्ट इज सेलिंग एंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ओवरहेड्स। सेल्समैन का सैलरी, सेल्स स्टाफ का सैलरी, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन एक्सपेंस, लॉजिस्टिक्स एक्सपेंस, सेल करने के बाद एक गाड़ी जाएगी, डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करके आएगी गुड्स, कोरियर का खर्चा सेल्स पे, all will be part of my selling and distribution overheads. Selling and distribution overheads. So if I add in my cost of the goods sold the selling and distribution overheads, I'll get cost of sales. Cost of sales. After that, if I add my profit margin in the cost of sales, I'll arrive at the sales. So these terminologies are specifically cost accounting related. Don't link these terminologies from our commerce and accounts, okay? नहीं तो फिर कंफ्यूजन क्रिएट होगा। अरे सर वहां का कॉस्ट ऑफ द गुड सोल्ड अलग होता था, वहां तो कॉस्ट ऑफ सेल्स होता ही नहीं था, बिल्कुल नहीं होता था, तभी तो ब्रांच ही अलग है। सब कुछ सेम होता तो फाइनेंशियल अकाउंटिंग और कॉस्ट अकाउंटिंग एक हो जाती है ना, अभी तो अलग है। सब कुछ सेम होता तो फिर मैं फाइनेंशियल अकाउंटिंग क्यों बोलता और कॉस्ट अकाउंटिंग क्यों बोलता? मैं तो एक ही टर्म बोलता। They both are completely different, right? In financial accounting, we are only concerned with balance sheets and profit and loss account. We just want to ascertain the financial position. We just want to ascertain the financial performance. In cost accounting, we are concerned with कि material कितना लगा, labor कितना लगा, indirect expense कितने लगे। सोचो तुम तुम्हारे शेयर होल्डर्स को जाके बोलोगे कि मटेरियल पे 1 लाख रुपए खर्चा हुआ, लेबर पे 1 लाख रुपए खर्चा हुआ, इनडायरेक्ट एक्सपेंसेस के अंदर फैक्ट्री ओवरहेड्स के अंदर इतना खर्चा हुआ, एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव ओवरहेड्स पे इतना खर्चा हुआ, ये मेरी कॉस्ट ऑफ सेल्स हुई। अरे बोलेगा भाई भाड़ में गया इनडायरेक्ट और डायरेक्ट। प्रॉफिट कितना हुआ, ईपीएस निकाल के बताओ, पी रेशो कितना आ रहा है, बैलेंस शीट क्या है, बैलेंस शीट का फाइनेंशियल पोजीशन क्या है, राइट? Your investors, your shareholders won't be caring about your cost accounting. They don't understand cost accounting. They know financial accounting. Cost accounting is for cost accountants, right? There is a difference. Shareholder को जाके बोलोगे कि ये देखो हमने स्टेटमेंट बनाया, वो फाड़ के फेंक देगा। इस वाला स्टेटमेंट बोलेगा यार इसका मैं क्या करूं, क्या होता है ओवरहेड, क्या होता है, वो ये बोलेगा व्हाट इज ओवरहेड। उसको नहीं पता ओवरहेड क्या होता है। ठीक है सर, हम तो पीएफआरडी और सेबी में जाने वाले, हमको क्यों पढ़ाया जा रहा है ओवरहेड क्या होता है। देखो यार, बेसिक आना चाहिए कॉस्टिंग का, राइट? बेसिक्स ऑफ कॉस्टिंग हमेशा आना चाहिए। इन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में जाओगे तो इन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में खर्चे नहीं होते क्या? होते हैं ना। कॉस्ट तो हर जगह होती है, जिंदा रहने के लिए भी खर्चा करना पड़ता है। So wherever there is cost, there is costing, right? So you just have basics of costing in your syllabus. And when we'll be learning marginal costing, it is so interesting topic that you will love to understand marginal costing. There you will came to know the importance of costing. Then you will come to know the importance of costing कि यार कितना important चीजें थी, right? जब decision making आती है ना, when we need to take decisions, then we understand the importance of basics. Okay, so this is the format of cost sheet. You need to remember this format very well. Try to remember it in a story format. मैं आपकी जगह होता तो कैसे रिमेंबर करता, कैसे याद करता? देखो, मेरे को सबसे पहले पता चलता कि अच्छा मुझे अगर कुछ बनाना है, इफ आई वांट टू प्रोड्यूस समथिंग, आई नीड मटेरियल, आई नीड टू हायर वेज, आई नीड टू हायर लेबरर्स टू make that material, I need to incur several other expenses as well. This will be my primary cost. Now bringing all these things is not enough. You need a factory. Just try to remember this cost sheet in a story basis, on a story, in terms of a story, right? मैं रॉ मटेरियल ले आया, लेबर उठा के ले आया, और भी जमाने भर के खर्चे कर दिए, कुछ होने वाला है? कुछ नहीं होने वाला। फैक्ट्री कहाँ है? So I need to incur factory overheads, which is also called as work overheads, one of the same thing only. I need to adjust the WIP. अब फैक्ट्री आ गई तो WIP का एडजस्टमेंट आएगा, क्योंकि रॉ मटेरियल फैक्ट्री में जाने के बाद क्या रॉ मटेरियल रहेगा? नहीं रहेगा। अरे क्लॉथ फैक्ट्री में जाने के बाद क्लॉथ थोड़ी रहेगा यार, उसको तो काट के पूरा टी शर्ट के फॉर्म में लेके आ जाएंगे ना, राइट? सो उसका तो ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन चालू हो चुका है। Then we get the factory cost, or we can also call it as work cost. सही है। अब फैक्ट्री तक ही खर्चे थोड़ी होते हैं यार, अकाउंटेंट हायर कर रखा है, ऑफिस में इतने सारे लोग बैठे हुए हैं, ऑफिस एंड एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन का क्या होगा? उसको भी प्लस करो। सो विल बी गेटिंग कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन इन दैट केस। अच्छा, भूल गए वो 20,000 रुपए का फिनिश गुड्स यू आर हैविंग इन द ओपनिंग स्टॉक। इफ यू टोटल दैट, यू विल बी गेटिंग कॉस्ट ऑफ गुड्स अवेलेबल फॉर सेल। 1 lakh is your current cost of production. 20,000 you were already having, so now you are having cost of goods available for sale. Deduct the closing stock. When I came to know that last में तो सिर्फ 30,000 पड़ा है फिनिश गुड्स, बाकी का क्या हुआ होगा? बाकी के टी शर्ट्स बिक गए होंगे यार। कॉस्ट ऑफ द गुड्स सोल्ड, COGS। अरे बिका कैसे होगा? कैसे बेचोगे? सेल्समैन नहीं चाहिए क्या? मार्केटिंग टीम नहीं चाहिए क्या? एडवर्टीजमेंट एक्सपेंसेस नहीं करने पड़ेंगे क्या? अपने आप बिक जाएगी टी शर्ट? नहीं। सेलिंग एंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, अपने आप आके कोई ले जाएगा? नहीं, डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हैं। फैक्ट्री से सेलिंग शोरूम तक भेज रहे हैं टी शर्ट्स को, वहां से आगे कंसाइनमेंट डिलीवर कर रहे हैं। सेलिंग एंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन एक्सपेंस, दिस विल बी माय कॉस्ट ऑफ सेल्स इफ आई एड प्रॉफिट मार्जिन। इफ क्या ऐड करना ही पड़ेगा ना, प्रॉफिट कमाने के लिए तो बैठे हैं सब। So in cost of sales, I need to add profit margin. I'll arrive at my sales. That's the format. Try to remember this as a story, not as a concept. If you remember this as a concept, you will feel bored. कि सर क्या पहले कॉमर्स एंड अकाउंटेंसी में इतने टर्म्स, अब कॉस्टिंग में भी ये करना पड़ रहा है। सर क्यों करना पड़ रहा है? पैसे कमाने तो करना पड़ेगा। 2 तरीके हैं, या तो परेशान होके पढ़ो, या स्टोरी में इंजॉय करके पढ़ो। जब आप इंजॉय करके पढ़ोगे तो गारंटी के साथ बोल रहा हूँ ज्यादा नंबर आएंगे। एक पर्सन जो कॉन्सेप्ट्स को कॉन्सेप्ट्स नहीं इंजॉयमेंट समझ के पढ़ता है, उसके हमेशा ज्यादा नंबर आते हैं एज कंपेयर टू दैट पर्सन जिसने बर्डन समझ के पढ़ा पढ़ाई को। कि सर ये भी पढ़ रहे हैं वो भी पढ़ रहे हैं, हमारे क्या काम का, कब काम आएगा पता भी नहीं चलेगा, और हो सकता है कभी काम ना आए। पर ये सब चीजें पढ़ने से तुम्हारा फाइनेंशियल आईक्यू डेवलप होगा। ओके, आज से पहले कभी सोचा था कि एक प्रोडक्ट बनाने के लिए इस तरह से कैलकुलेशन की जाती होगी? नाउ दीज थिंग्स आर एक्चुअली बीइंग डन इन द फैक्ट्रीज, in the manufacturing sector. They do have a cost sheet always. Who knows, you get a chance to work with a big manufacturing company in the near future. Later on, maybe after PFRDA, after SEBI, or even before that, you have a experience of calculating cost, right? So that's a skill. Calculating cost, ascertaining profit, analyzing balance sheets and profit and loss account, that's a skill. You get paid for that in the market. अभी पढ़ के लग रहा होगा सर थ्योरी है, थ्योरी नहीं है, कोर प्रैक्टिकल है। डिपेंड्स आप कैसे लेते हो, रट रट के थ्योरी बना देते हो या फिर प्रैक्टिकली समझ के स्टोरी वे में इंजॉय करके पढ़ोगे। सो इंटरव्यू में किसी को इंजॉय करके समझा पाओगे, राइट? अगर कोई इंटरव्यू में पूछ लेगा कभी कभी भी, अभी तो खैर एग्जाम में पढ़ रहे हैं हम, राइट? अभी तो हम, राइट, खुद की फैक्ट्री खोलोगे तो सबसे ज्यादा काम आएगा, नहीं तो कोई एम्प्लॉय बना जाएगा, प्रोडक्ट को नहीं तुमको, है ना? सो फाइनेंशियल आईक्यू बहुत अच्छा होना चाहिए, बहुत स्ट्रांग होना चाहिए लाइफ में। ओके, अच्छा, व्हेन वी लर्न द थिंग्स विथ आवर इंटरेस्ट, सक्सेस इज अश्योर्ड वेदर यू क्लियर द एग्जामिनेशन और नॉट। ये बात सही है कि सब लोग एग्जाम क्लियर नहीं करेंगे, कुछ ही लोग करेंगे, ठीक है? मैं कितना भी पढ़ा दूंगा, आप एक क्या 10 कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट से ट्यूशन पढ़ लोगे तो भी ये बात जरूरी नहीं है कि सब लोग सबके सब एग्जाम क्लियर कर लोगे, ठीक है? मैं पर्सनली बिठा के 101 भी पढ़ा दूंगा तो भी जरूरी नहीं है। पर अगर आपने इसको इंटरेस्टिंग वे में पढ़ा, डेफिनेटली दिस विल पे यू बैक इन लाइफ। ओके, दिस विल पे यू बैक इन लाइफ, दैट्स फॉर श्योर, ठीक है? अब मेरे को कॉल कर लेना भले, ठीक है? पर एक बार ये अच्छे से पढ़ लो ताकि कॉल करने की भी जरूरत ना पड़े। नाउ देयर इज अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन अकाउंटिंग एंड कॉस्टिंग. These items are excluded from the cost sheet. They are in accounting, but we don't consider it in cost sheet. Cash discount, interest paid, provision for taxation, provision for bad debts, donations, income tax paid, dividend paid. Who cares about the dividend, man? Right? Who cares about the dividend? Financial accountants do. Here we are cost accountants, right? So you need to do a transition. Earlier, when we were studying the commerce and accounts, you were financial accountants. Now you guys are cost accountants. Focus on the cost. Nobody cares about taxes. Nobody cares about dividend here. सर फिक्स एसेट बेची, प्रॉफिट और लॉस हो गया, अरे वो फाइनेंशियल अकाउंटेंट बैठा है उसको दो यार, हमारा काम नहीं है, दिस इज नॉट अवर वर्क. Preliminary expenses written off, financial accounting. Goodwill written off, financial accounting. Transfer to reserve, financial accounting. Right? All the things will not at all be a part of your cost sheet. You need to remember these terminologies. Okay? You need to remember these terminologies. Let's do some questions. Let's try to understand how they practically ask from this particular topic in the examination. सर पढ़ा तो दिया, बढ़िया लग रहा है, स्टोरी वोरी बना दी, अब क्या स्टोरी लिख के आएंगे क्या? नहीं. In examination you need to do questions. Let's start. If raw material purchase is 90,000, closing stock of raw material is 6,000, opening stock of raw material is 7,000, what is the direct material consumed? This is a PYQ question that came in SEBI Grade A general examination. If you are even giving the PFRDA examination, you need to do the SEBI questions as well. Syllabus दोनों का same है. So what do you think, guys, should be the correct choice here? The correct choice here is 91,000. How? Opening stock plus purchase, ये 9 है ना, मैंने थोड़ा सा रफ बना दिया है, वापस लिख देता हूँ. 7,000 plus 90,000 minus closing stock of 6,000. 91,000 सही है. 7,000 पड़ा हुआ था. I was already having a stock of 7,000. 90,000 I have bought this particular financial year. So ideally I should be having 97,000 in my stock. However, at the end of the financial year I can see only 6,000 in the closing stock of my raw material. That means 91,000 consume हो चुका होगा. कहाँ चला गया होगा? उड़ गया होगा क्या? कंज्यूम हो गया होगा. सही है. So 91,000 is my consumption. Next. The following information they have given, you need to compute the prime cost, direct material, direct wages, factory overhead, administrative overheads. What will be my what will be my prime cost here? Exam का question है. Multiple times competitive exams में है. अच्छा, श्योर हो सब? ये सही आंसर है. $1,65,000 है ना. I just need to add direct material and wages here. Direct expenses और कोई given नहीं है. Other direct expenses I don't have. So as of now, direct material and direct wages 1,65,000. Don't add factory overheads and admin overheads. They are completely irrelevant as of now. Next question. They have given us the following information. Percentage of factory overheads to direct wages is 60%. Percentage of factory overheads to direct wages is equal to 60%. Factory overheads are 60% of direct wages is what I can say, right? We need to calculate the factory overheads. They have given us the following information. 90,000 direct material, 75,000 direct wages, administrative overheads 42,000. You need to calculate here the factory overheads. Let's see कौन सबसे पहले calculate करता है. $45,000. You don't have to add direct material, direct wages. Why 45,000? Why you guys are not considering the direct material, direct wages? Administrative overhead to chalo I can understand. You don't have to consider in case of factory overheads. But why you didn't consider direct material and direct wages? Because we don't need to. In the question they have directly given you factory overheads. अरे यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ तो है factory overheads are nothing but 60% of direct wages. So what are my direct wages? 75,000 का 60% is what? 45,000. 45,000. एग्जाम में इतना प्रेशर होता है स्टूडेंट्स, फैक्ट्री ओवरहेड्स को फैक्ट्री कॉस्ट पढ़ के आ गए. प्रेशर किसी से भी हो सकता है. मैं प्रेशर में होऊंगा तो मुझसे भी हो सकता है, आप होगे तो आपसे भी हो सकता है. दैट्स टोटली फेयर. बट दिस इज अ बिग सिली मिस्टेक. फैक्ट्री ओवरहेड इज डिफरेंट थिंग, फैक्ट्री कॉस्ट इज अ टोटली डिफरेंट थिंग, राइट? इन प्राइम कॉस्ट I need to add factory overheads. Then I need to account for the difference, and then I need to adjust the WIP. Then I get the factory cost. Factory overhead is totally different thing. Factory cost is a different thing. Factory cost includes factory overheads, right? एग्जाम में लोग फैक्ट्री कॉस्ट कंप्यूट करके आ गए. अच्छा, so if you have computed the factory overheads, now tell me the factory cost in this particular question. Now you need to calculate the factory cost in this particular question. The correct choice here is 2,10,000, right? 2,10,000. Okay, guys, that's all from my end for today. See you in the next class. Bye bye. Take care. Keep revising. Keep studying. Okay. Bye bye.